Today's story bridges two worlds, the tight, walk-the-bank grit of the Great Lakes and the raw, tidal edge power of Alaska's Togiak River. Bailey Adamavich learned to fish where 40-foot casts and ice-cold tributaries shape anglers, then cut his teeth on chrome kings, long rods, and blown-out Alaskan rivers. By the time he reached Togiak, he'd lived the full arc, scouting runs, watching big rivers on the rise, and guiding anglers in the kind of eats that turn casters into believers. This is the Wet Fly Swing Podcast, where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to this fish species we all love. Bailey Adamavich is here today. He's going to take us in and let us understand what it feels like stepping into an Alaskan guide season and his experience there. We're going to find out how he's adapted from 80-foot wide Wisconsin rivers to the big rivers of the Togiak and beyond. We're also going to get a feel for what this Chinook game feels like from the violent eats and how he coaches anglers. He was our guide on the river when we were up there, so we talk about the story of having one of our best days with Bailey, so that's exciting to share that. We also hear the story about how he looked over his shoulder one day and Ed Ward was watching him land a fish. He had an Ed Ward encounter. That was an interesting one. And we also get into some ultralight Great Lakes gear, how it transfers over to some of the other stuff he's doing throughout the year. All right, Bailey's got a good program. Like all of the guides that we've been connecting with here, he's pretty passionate, so it's going to be exciting to hear how he's chasing kings, browns, and how he's bringing it all together. You can find Bailey at Crazy for Chrome Guide Service, and you can also check him out at togiakspay.com. Let's jump into it. Here he is, Bailey Adamavich. How you doing, Bailey?
Good, Dave. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. This is great to reconnect after a trip up in Togiak this year. I've talked quite a bit about it because we had a pretty awesome day. I think the day I was out with you was probably my best day as far as fish. We're going to talk about that today. We were swinging for king salmon, but also you've got in your home waters in kind of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Wisconsin. You fish for salmon and anadromous fish there as well. So we're gonna get into all things chrome and anadromous fish. Does that sound like a pretty good plan?
Absolutely, Dave. Sounds great.
Nice. Okay, cool. Let's take us back before we jump into it. Into Wisconsin. Let's take us back to the that day, maybe on Togiak. Let's start there. What's your experience? First, we're going to dig into that day, but how did you connect to Togiak and kind of lodge up there?
Yeah. So this is my third year in Alaska. I did 2 years over on a place called Lake Creek. And then this past winter, I contacted Jordan over at Togiak and was seeing if they were looking for anybody for this upcoming season. And sure enough, they were. So landed that position, and that took me over to Togiak this summer. And it was wonderful. Great fishery.
Yeah. So did you know, I guess before that, were you doing a lot of swinging? Was that pretty much some of the techniques you were already doing before that?
Yep. Had 2 years swinging for kings over on Lake Creek. A little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
Yep.
And where's Lake Creek?
It would be in kind of south central Alaska, on the north end of the Cook Inlet.
Oh, okay. South Central. Gotcha.
It's a tributary of the Yetna River.
Okay. Yeah, Lake Creek. So it's one of the. I'm trying to get my bearings on some of this because there's some places that are, have closures now. I think
Yep.
around the Kenai and stuff.
That place is now closed. Yep.
Oh, it is really.
Yep.
Yep. Gotcha. So the same thing, you guys. Were you seeing some? Was this mostly a kind of like Togiak is, where they're transitioning mostly a swing fishery for kings? Is that the way Lake Creek was?
We did a lot of gear fishing as well. I would say probably a 50-50 mix.
Yep, gotcha. Wow. Okay. So now, that day on Togiak, let's go back there. So how easy was it for you to get into Togiak and to, understand the system and the river? Was that pretty quick and easy, or was it quite a bit different from your fishing at Lake Creek?
No, it was totally different. Over at Lake Creek, we were fishing much smaller water, more like holding water. The creek, we were fishing was maybe the size of one of the side channels on the Togiak.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, much smaller water. So my first day on the Togiak, when we fished, some of them bigger main stem rungs, it was pretty overwhelming, trying to pick apart that big water.
No kidding. Yeah. So it was a little bit different. How do you explain Togiak, the river itself, the whole experience up there? You guys are up there for like 6 weeks? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I was actually up there the whole season, but a lot of what the Spey guys do, they're up there, like Larry and Floyd. and Chris are up there for about 6 weeks. Yep. But I was there the whole season. I was there till mid-September.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yep.
okay. You were there the whole season.
I got to see it all. Yep.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so yeah, I didn't realize that. What was that like? So was this your first year or second year at Togiak?
First year at Togiak. Yep.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. First year at Togiak, and you got up there, and when did you first get up there?
I think like June 6th, I arrived, and you kind of saw it during king season. The water was super high,
Yeah.
kind of up to the top of the banks, even over the banks in some spots for a while.
Yep.
But then during end of July and then into August, I got to see it all the way basically bone dry. A whole different river
The whole
system.
thing.
A whole different river system. Yep. It
Yep.
looked completely different. So
Gotcha. So you got up there June, and then what does that look like? Are you jumping right in guiding, or talk about the
I
year at
was
Togiak?
I would say it was about 8 days of lodge work, getting stuff ready, fixing stuff that was broken, and then about 5 days of kind of scouting, fishing with all the different guides throughout the program that we had there each different day. And then I think the first clients showed up on the 16th, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
correct. And then June 16th through I think July 16th, somewhere in that range. July 14th was our space season.
Yep.
So we were guiding that portion of the year for Kings.
Yeah. And then after July, so we wrapped that up. We were up there. I guess I'm trying to think now. I think it was earlier July, but you wrapped up in mid-July. And then what'd you go to next? What was after that at Togiak?
We kind of switch over to what would be what they consider their gear season.
Uh huh.
Gear fishing for kings, chums, and then sockeyes as well. Kind of a mixed bag. We did do fly fishing as well during that time, but it was not spay oriented like the first 5 or 6 weeks were. Mainly, stripping flies for chums and backwaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then and a lot of sockeye fishing too for people that wanted to harvest fish.
Yep. Right, right. Sockeye, yeah. So basically up there they have pretty much everything, right? All five Pacific salmon. Did you that time are you getting I guess yeah, July, August, you kind of have a chance at everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, end of July, early August, you can get the Grand Slam with all five. Yep.
Yeah, Grand Slam, that's amazing. So you go up there, so that's through August, September, then you head out in like September?
Yeah, I was home September 17th this year.
Yeah, September 17th. Okay. Well, take us to that day because I think not sure if you remember it completely, but we jumped out. I don't even remember what day it was on, but we were up there the week. But we get out there with you and you take us up to a spot. And do you remember that day when we were up there and we had some action?
Yep, absolutely. Vividly.
Oh, you did. So I remember. I don't even remember exactly, but I think we got into a number of fish, and I think I sat back there. We kind of took turns, right? But talk
Yep.
about that. What was that day? The spot we went to. Talk about how you chose that spot. How does that work at Togiak? Because you've got your other guides going to different places, right?
Yeah. So we kind of do like a rotation each day with each client will fish with a different guide each day.
Yep,
So you're not fishing the same guide each day. So you guys were paired with me, and I think I think you still needed a fish, if I'm correct, an adult fish.
that's right. That's right.
Yep. And this spot that we are talking about was kind of consistently putting out, nice adult fish. So we had first pick at it. So we went there first thing in the morning, and we did pretty well.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah, it was. I had got. They call. What do they call the fish? Super jacks. Is that what the
Yep.
smaller fish? Yeah, and those are fish that are. What are the super jacks versus the adults?
Yeah, we call a superjack like a 5 to 10 pound fish.
Yeah. So most people, the trout fish, that would be a giant
Yeah.
fish, right? Five
Yep.
to 10 pound. But in Alaska, that's just a super jack, right? So I was
Yep.
pretty stoked actually when I got into the super jack and stuff. But yeah, we get up to this spot and describe the spot a little bit because it's kind of you've got this bank. It's not like a big wide floodplain, right? You're kind of right in
Yep.
against the
Yeah.
bank, but it's a deep slot, right?
You're fishing a high bank. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. It's a pretty short cast. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just get the fly out there. Just turn the fly over, get it fishing, and if you get it fishing, you're very likely to get a grab in that spot.
Right.
The fish hold very close to shore. There's a lot of boulders in that spot. Yeah, great spot.
That's it. And we definitely had some action there. What is that experience kind of swinging there? How similar is that to what you do out? Because you fish for salmon, right? Chinook up in your home waters in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Are there some similarities there?
Yeah. So our fish are fall run fish, like the Thule fish, in the Columbia strain.
Yep.
So they're not too keen on taking flies when they come in the rivers. I do a lot of bait fishing for them with bobber and
Hmm.
eggs. But our cohos and our steelhead and browns are absolutely keen to taking flies. Do a lot of swinging for them when we have water. This fall we had probably the lowest water I've ever seen at around like 75 CFS.
Hmm.
So at that low, we did a lot of stripping flies just to keep the fly animated and keep them enticed.
Right.
But our water is way smaller than the Togiak.
It is.
Way, way smaller. Yep.
You gotcha. Yeah, the Togiak's a bigger river. What is it? Describe that a little bit on those rivers. So you've got Coho, Steelhead, Browns, and Chinook.
Yep.
But what are the? Yeah, describe your operation up there a little bit.
Yeah. So I do float trips out of a raft, a smaller raft than you would consider, for out west. We
Hmm.
don't have boat launches here in Wisconsin on a lot of our places. So I need something that I can maneuver, by myself or with my clients super easily. So we do the floats in a raft and we get out typically in the runs. We'll, for swinging, we'll get out in the raft and step down the runs with typically using switch rods here, like 11 or 11 and a half foot, 7 or 8 weight rods, depending on what you're throwing as far as sink tips and size flies. But yeah, a lot smaller stuff. I don't use hardly any T material here because of our low flows. I use more of those Scientific Anglers TC tips, those lighter sink rate tips.
Okay.
And, in the spring, you can get away with some T material here, but for the most part in the fall when we're swinging, it's super light.
Mm,
Sometimes even just a long monofilament leader with a weighted fly.
okay. Yeah. And what's the timing on there? When is the area you're covering for salmon up there? Or I guess salmon, coho, or steelhead. Yeah.
Yeah, our kings start in like mid-September and then they'll go through up like mid-October and then they'll start to spawn. And then when they start to spawn, I'll kind of take about a 2 or 3 week break and kind of wait for the trout to come in. And then I'll start back up like around first week in November for our steelhead and brown trout and coho fishing. And then that'll go through until we freeze, which is kind of different every year. This year, we're actually frozen right now.
Oh, you are.
It's actually 11 degrees outside right now where I'm sitting. So,
Yep. So December, and it's kind of December 2nd range right now, right?
yep,
We're
yep.
today.
Kind of an abnormal year. Typically, we're fishing till about Christmas time with open water, but winter decided to come early this year. So,
Yeah. So what does that happen when it comes early? Does that pretty much shut you down completely?
yep, I do a little bit of ice fishing here and there, but a lot of ice time, tying flies.
Yeah.
I do all my own tying for Alaska, so I spend a lot of my winter tying, prepping for Alaska.
Yep. Right. And so, and does it potentially, is that if you get a warm snap, can you be out there fishing again, or is this pretty much
Um,
closed up
On our Lake Michigan tributaries, not so much. Now we do have. I'm pretty close to what we consider the driftless region, and those spring-fed creeks will open up in the middle of winter if we get a warm snap. But our Lake Michigan tributaries will stay frozen until probably mid-March, on average.
Yeah, I'm in March. Okay. And describe that again, like kind of geographically where you're located, or where are you physically now? What's your town that you're in there?
So I live in a little town called Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is about an hour north of Madison, kind of in
Okay.
central Wisconsin. But I do all my guiding over about an hour north of Milwaukee, in the Sheboygan or Manitowoc area.
Gotcha. And what is that? Describe the, so you have, it sounds like it's not a super long season. You got the fall, the winter season. And is there also a spring season there?
Correct. Yeah, we have our spring run steelhead season, which so in the fall we have about 6 weeks of fishing, and in the spring we have about 6 weeks of fishing for our trout.
For your trout, right? And then and that's the steelhead, the migratory rainbow trout.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
our fish that come in fall will sit in the river all winter long, and then even well into springtime. So we'll catch spawned out brown trout well into April typically, and then we'll get, I would say, about 40% of our run for steelhead comes in fall, and then the other 60% comes in spring, and then in spring is when the majority of them do their spawning.
Okay, yeah, and then what do you think is the most out of what you do? What's the species that most people are coming for in Wisconsin there?
I would say our big lake run brown trout for
Oh,
sure.
so browns, right?
Yep.
And that's the one that we haven't talked quite as much about. And we've definitely talked steelhead, salmon. I guess coho is another one that you don't hear as much about. But is that a similar to Alaska where the fish are really aggressive and stripping, flies and stuff?
Correct. Yeah, our coho love to eat strip flies here. Actually, it's very similar to what we would do in Alaska with bunny leeches and just simple, clouser style patterns on a floating line with a 8 or 9 foot leader and a slow or medium retrieve back to the boat.
Right, that's awesome. Okay, and then you have the browns. And is the browns pretty similar to steelhead, or what? What is what are you guys doing? Are you swinging there?
Yep. Yeah, swinging. I do a little bit of indicator fishing as well, but the tight line grab is what I'm there for. When we have the water, like I mentioned earlier, this year it was a single hand kind of stripping game just because our water was so low. But yeah, our browns will come in fall and they'll do their spawn. So we'll target fish, kind of staging up before they move up onto the reds. We'll target them in the deeper holding pools and the deeper runs.
Mm.
Um, and then they'll do their spawn typically the like end of November time frame. And then in the springtime when they're post spawn, we'll get a real good post spawn brown trout bite, eat first streamer fishing again in the spring.
So November. So basically now, yeah, the spawn's done, but it's frozen now. So did you get a? What's the window look like for fishing for browns in the kind of fall winter?
Yeah, typically like November 1st till about mid December is our average time frame. This year it was we ended 2 days ago, so like November 30th or 31st. But typically, like I said, we're fishing till mid December or even up to Christmas on an average year.
Yep. Okay, and then you swing around, and then when does it kick off again? Just after kind of ice out the next year?
Yep, yep, kind of like mid March, like the March 15th time frame, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then it'll go all the way till mid April.
Okay. So take us back a little bit. We haven't heard about your kind of, your story getting into it. Have you been fly fishing for a while, or did you get into this a little bit later?
I started fly fishing when I started my business, which would be 4 years ago now. So I
All
haven't
right.
I haven't been fly fishing a ton, but in the 4 years I've put in a ton of time. 3 of those years were guiding in Alaska, so
All right.
that's a
Yep.
lot of time.
That is. Yeah, that's what they say. The Alaska thing, you go up there and guide. It's where I don't know. It kind of breaks you in, right? Is that what it was like?
Yep, it's where a lot of people cut their teeth. Yep,
Yeah. What was that like? Your first year in Alaska? You get up there. This was at the lake. Was it Lake Creek?
Lake Creek. Yep,
Yeah. What was your first season up there? Was it just was it a whirlwind or what was that like?
yeah, yep. I had no idea what to expect. I had done so we'll kind of backtrack. I worked on Lake Michigan for 9 years as a deckhand and then as a captain,
Oh
running
wow.
a charter boat out there for trolling, deep water salmon and trout.
Hmm.
I did that for a number of years and got tired of that. And
Mm-hmm.
Alaska had always been, in my back of my head as a dream to go up there and guide. So finally one day I just out of a whim applied to this place and got the job.
Yep.
So fast forward to June, I'm up in Alaska and never been there before. It's extremely overwhelming. The rivers are huge compared to the
Yep.
rivers here in the Midwest in Wisconsin. A lot more fish than we have here.
Yep.
Typically, a lot brighter fish as well. Lots more silver fish.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was good. I did a mix of fly fishing and gear fishing my first couple years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was good. We had all 5 species there as well, so it was a
Yeah.
good time.
So you go up there and you don't know. Basically, you haven't been fly fishing, and you're in Alaska learning to.
Yep,
How did you learn? Yeah.
I had fly fished for maybe 2 years at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
and really just single hand fishing. Yep,
Yeah. Single hand. Okay. So you've been fly fishing. You got a couple years under your belt. Now you're in Alaska, kind of doing the guiding thing. And are guys up there? Is there spay casting going on, or is it mostly single hand there?
correct. No, for our Chinook season, we were doing spay fishing.
Yeah. That's right. So was that something you had to pick up while you're up there, the spay, or were you learning
A
that?
little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I had kind of went out there with the intention of learning. It
Mm-hmm.
was something that I'd always wanted to do, and especially for the kings, they're probably the number one fish you can target on a two handed rod. So
Definitely, definitely. And what was your journey like when you first learned to fly cast? Did you kind of teach yourself? What did that look like?
Yep, I'm all self-taught, basically everything.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time on the internet at
Yep.
night, and then going out, the next day and just
Practicing.
practicing it over and over and over again. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. That's basically how I taught myself to spay cast, and obviously there's can be some struggles and things like that. But yeah, I think casting is that number one thing. When you're up in Alaska, people come up there. What's the biggest hurdle? Like let's just take it to Togiak. So you got the spay, you got somebody coming up there. What do you find? Do you find more people are experienced or kind of new to the spay casting?
I would say not experienced,
Not experienced.
especially for that size of water that we're fishing.
Yeah, that's right. Because you have to. There's some areas, right, where getting a longer cast is beneficial. Do you think that's on the Togiak is having a long cast, is that going to help you out there?
Yes and no. There's plenty of places where the fish are close to the bank,
Hmm.
within 50 or 60 feet. But there's also, a few spots where the farther you can chuck it, the better.
Yeah, the farther. Yeah, and who are the guys? Remind us again on the guys that you mentioned a few of them. We had Floyd, Chris. Who else were the guides we had? The fly guy, spay guides that
Yeah.
we.
So Floyd, Chris, Larry,
Larry.
um,
Who are we missing? Floyd,
uh,
Chris. Well, Aaron wasn't
Aaron.
guiding.
Yep. Big
Yeah, he
Aaron
was.
and Ryan Pitcher.
Oh, and Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. And Ryan. And those guys are all a mix. I mean, everybody's kind of coming from different areas, right?
Yep.
Fishing around,
All
whether
over.
you're all over
Yep.
the place. I think Chris is out in Oregon doing some stuff. And
Yeah. He's
you
on the
got,
Deschutes.
yep, Deschutes.
Floyd's kind of based out of Portland, but he guides on the Klickitat and
That's
the
right.
Forks area. Larry's over in my area,
Yep.
on the southern end of Lake Michigan.
Okay. So he's on the southern end. Okay.
Yep, he's down in Michigan City, Indiana. So down in Indiana.
Oh, really?
Yep, yep.
Michigan City. Okay.
And then Ryan is near the Clearwater system in Idaho, and Aaron is kind of in that Grays Harbor area, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you and Larry are definitely the furthest out of the
Yep,
the
we're
big.
the odd ones out of the bunch here from the
Right.
Midwest. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But you guys are still, and we do a ton of stuff, with folks out there. So I think there's obviously tons of overlap, and I think I'm not sure if there's as many, but I think that some of the best spay anglers and
Absolutely.
anadromous fish are from the Midwest,
Yep.
because it's pretty cool that evolution. You're a younger, you're younger to this, but do you
Yeah.
know a little bit of the history? Do you read up? Do you know about how kind of that spay revolution happened and stuff?
Here in the Midwest or just
Yeah.
in general?
Yeah, or just in general or in the
Yeah,
Midwest,
yeah.
yeah.
I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, with the OG guys.
Okay, yeah, you've heard them,
So
yeah.
I kind of know the history of it. As far as actually, Ed Ward used to live in my
Yeah.
hometown.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
I've actually had a few chats with Ed
Oh, cool.
back in my earlier years of fly fishing. Nothing too in depth, but great guy.
Yeah.
Super willing to help out.
Where was that hometown, your original hometown?
In Sheboygan.
Oh, Sheboygan. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where Ed was from. Yeah, Ed is definitely a quieter. He's one of the quiet, whatever you call that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the man, but he's hard to get a hold of.
Absolutely. He watched me catch a fish behind my back one day.
Oh,
And
really?
I had to go up to him and get some words out of him before, because I knew he wasn't going to come up and say anything. Yep.
Now, what happened? So you were on the river with Ed, and he was watching you?
I was just fishing by myself, and I was landing a fish, and I kind of looked over my shoulder, and I was like, "Holy man, there's Ed Ward."
Really?
Yep. Yep.
And he was just hanging out, just kind of like fishing the same area?
Yeah, he was watching me fish. Yep. We were kind of near a public parking area, so
Oh, okay.
I'm sure he noticed me fighting a fish and kind of walked down and.
Yep.
Yep.
And
That
what
was that.
were your words? What'd you say to him?
I kind of was like, man, hey man, are you Ed Ward? I was a little nervous.
Right.
I kind of had watched some of his videos, the Skagit Master and stuff like that.
That's awesome. What did he say? Did he say he just said,
Yeah,
"Yeah"?
he didn't say much. He said maybe a couple words, good fish, buddy, and
Right.
I think he left. He had his dog with him, and then he left
Sure.
after that.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, it is kind of it is going. I haven't kept up with OPST recently. I think they're still going out there, going
Yep,
strong. But I mean, there's a lot of obviously all the brands. Spay, even though
absolutely.
it's a tiny little niche, right? Spay is still. I think all the companies have a real focus. Like there's a line of rods and lines and everything.
Absolutely. I think if you're brand specific, you can stick with one brand.
Yeah.
Farbank makes a lot of good stuff.
Yep.
I work with Guideline with Max.
Oh yeah.
They make a lot of good stuff. Scientific Anglers, I run a lot of their lines and sink tips and stuff. So,
Oh, cool. Yeah, we just had, I can't remember the name of the episode. I think we just had it with a guideline episode. And we talked about kind of some of the history of that brand. It's pretty cool because they're on the other side, over on the other side of the pond in Europe, and stuff. But
yep,
they, doing the same things just a little bit differently, right? What do you think? How is guideline? Is it seem differently than maybe because they have lines and everything, right? They kind of cover it all.
correct. Yeah, they cover it all. Yep. They even have waders and packs and fly
Yep.
boxes and everything. Yep.
Are you guys mostly using, or were you mostly using rods, or were you using other gear from Guideline?
Yeah, I mainly use their rods and
Yeah,
their running lines and then rods, running lines, reels. And then I use a lot of the Scientific Anglers for shooting heads. Their Skagit short is probably my go-to here.
Skagit Short. Okay, is that the line you use for in Wisconsin or both in Alaska?
Correct. Just in Wisconsin here. They don't offer that line in more than like a 570 grain.
Okay,
So up in Alaska, we're throwing 650 to 750 grain lines. So there I'm throwing, I believe I have a Airflow Skagit and a Rio Game Changer for one of my setups.
yep, gotcha. Yeah, so it's all heavier stuff. Because up there for the Kings, it's
Yep.
9 and 10 weights, right? Bigger stuff. So where you're at, you're fishing more. So the Skagit Short, and then you mentioned the tips. What were the tips so you're not using any of the T because it's just too heavy. What's the lowest T I guess they have? Is it kind of
I think
that
it's
you guys
T.
use?
T8 is what I believe most companies offer as far as T material.
Yeah.
So the tips I'm using are from Scientific Anglers. They've renamed them. I think they're called their Spay tips now.
Okay.
But they used to be called their TC tips.
Gotcha.
But they offer them from a floating tip, and then they have like a sink 1, a sink 2, a sink 4, a sink 5, and a sink 6. So they're all of those sink tips sink lighter or slower, I should say, than the lightest T material. I think
Right.
T8 sinks at like 7 inches or 6 inches per second, which is just too fast for the slower, shallower water that I'm fishing.
Yep.
So a lot of times I'm fishing. I would say my go-to sink tip here is a 10 foot of a sink 2, sink 4. It's kind of a dual density tip from Scientific Anglers.
Dual density. Gotcha. So you're gonna kind of going light, and you even it sounds like when the waters get low, you're even going with like no tip at all, or just
Cor-
dry. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Even lighter, like a sink 1 or an intermediate tip, or even just casting like a floating leader or a floating tip with a long monofilament leader.
Right. That's awesome. And is that more I guess depending on the conditions, you could be using that in the fall or the spring.
Correct. Yeah, it's the lighter game is typically in the fall. We typically have a dry summer and a dry fall here in the Midwest, so our waters are typically pretty low. And then
Right.
in the spring we have our snow melt here and our ice push out. So our waters are typically high and very off colored in the springtime.
Gotcha. Okay. And so on that, I mean, like we said, there's some overlap, but the biggest difference between salmon fishing. Let's just take it to steelhead salmon, versus Togiak is just the size of the gear you're using. Is that pretty much the big, or what are some of the
Yeah,
other differences?
for the most part. Yeah, so in Togiak we're using 13 and a half to 15 foot rods.
Mm-hmm.
More in that 14 or 15 foot range. 9 and 10 weight rods, T14 in a lot of places, even T17 or T20. Here I'm using 11 or 11.5 foot switch rods in that 6, 7, or 8 weight range with a lot shorter heads,
And
just because
shorter.
our waters are so much smaller.
Yeah.
I would say the rivers I fish on average are 80 feet wide.
Yeah, 80 feet wide. Right. So
Yep.
that's still decent. I mean, 80 feet. It's yeah, but you're like you said in Togiak, that could be a side channel up there.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a side channel on the Togiak. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I'm not even sure how wide the Togiak is, but I remember we were looking at the CFS numbers. I mean, there's lots of variation from, high and low, but it's pumping. I mean, it's a
Yeah. Yep.
bigger than a lot of the western rivers even out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I think a lot of when I looked at the gauge during our king season, it was hovering around 20,000.
We've heard many of the stories on this podcast. Togiak River Lodge is one of the great destinations for swinging flies for Chinook, stripping for coho all day, and unwinding in a lodge right on the riverbank of the Togiak River. With access to all 5 salmon species plus rainbows, dolly varden, and more, Togiak offers a true Alaskan experience. Picture over 30 miles of river, seasoned guides, high-quality boats, and low fishing pressure. It's fly fishing Alaska at its best. I'll be heading up this summer, so reach out to Jordan and the crew to see what dates they have available this year. You can learn more right now at wetflyswing.com/Togiak. That's Togiak, Togiak. Alaskan fly fishing like you've always dreamed about. What is so we talked about that kind of week we were there, but take us through the whole king season when you were up there. So you get up there, you guys kind of get a few days of scouting, checking stuff out, making sure you're dialed in on everything, and then the first crew comes up. What was that like when the first group came up there? I guess that was right before us, I think, right? That was probably maybe a crew or two before we got there.
Correct.
Yeah. What was that like when you get the first group and you're like, all right, we're sitting there because you guys are visiting. I mean, when we got there, you were at the airport. I think you all came in and helped, right, to pick up the runway, right?
Yep. So a few of us will go down to town in the boats. There's 2 vehicles that we take. One is a van, the other is a Ford Excursion, and we pull the boats out of the water and we head down to the Togiak airport and we pick up the customers, pick you guys up.
Yep.
And then we drive back to the beach and then offload the boats again, drive back up to the lodge. It's about a 4-mile run or so.
Yep. Yep, we roll up there, and that first phase we've talked about a little bit, but it is coming in the Togiak Lodge, right? Is the whole you realize right away you're not in the lower 48, right? It's kind of
no,
yeah.
It's a huge river system. It's kind of cool that you actually enter from the bay. You actually kind of come up the same route the fish come up.
Yeah, right
which
through
is
Bristol.
Cool.
That's Bristol Bay, right?
Yep, that's Western Bristol Bay. Yep.
Yeah, which is a fame. I mean, definitely we've heard about that for years. So that's Bristol Bay. You're literally sitting there, and what you get there is, I guess, Bristol Bay can bring, in that part, anywhere in Alaska can bring some pretty decent storms. Did you guys see that throughout the season when you were there? Did you get some big rain events that mix this up?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. During our king season, it rained quite a bit in June, but then again in August. August is the rainy season. In September.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Right. So you had that, and what did it blow out at all? Did it come up?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it did.
Absolutely. Yeah. It went from bone dry, super low, to up over the banks in one night.
In one night.
Yep.
Holy cow. So when that happens, you kind of just batten down the hatches and hold tight for a little bit and then wait for it to start dropping again?
We were actually still out fishing, but yeah, it was tough. Fishing was tough. Yep.
Right, because obviously the water's up, it's good. But I'm guessing, depending on what goes on, the river can drop back into shape pretty quick. And we've heard some of those stories. I know Floyd was talking about the first year before he was up with Togiak, they had their operation where they were camping, and he told the story about how same thing. The river came up and it was like flooding their camp, and it was just like crazy, right? And I got that's partly how they connected with Togiak and Jordan and the guys.
Yep.
But okay.
Absolutely.
So obviously, fishing is fishing, and you're going to have some different conditions. But overall, like, what was it like fishing wise? You saw, I mean, you were there for us when we got in. I got into my first adult Chinook. What's that like for you, seeing these chrome bright fish come in? And is it a little bit different than when you see a Chinook come in through Wisconsin?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. We rarely see a chrome fish here in the Great Lakes.
Yeah, because they're just turning quick. They're chrome out in the Lake Michigan. They're chrome there, but then they turn dark quick.
Yeah, it's just a lot of it is our strain of fish, our fall run fish enter our rivers ready to spawn.
Yeah.
Versus those Alaskan fish are coming in and they're not spawning for another 2 or 3 months yet.
Oh, right.
So they're coming in, and where Togiak is situated on the river, it's, down in basically on the upper end of Tidewater. and you're catching fish with sea lice on them every single day that are fresh off the tide. Yep.
And how do you explain that take of the Togiak, just the Chinook, just down there in Alaska? What's that? The swinging. You've done a little bit the Lake Creek thing. It sounds like was similar, but what's that tug feel like? How do you explain it?
There's really nothing that compares really. A lot of times it gets heavy. There's some times where they smoke it, but a lot of times it gets heavy, and then you gotta wait. I know I had to coach you a few times to wait.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, but I farmed a few before. That's pretty much again back to the George Cook, the chewing the gum, right?
Correct.
You let them chew the gum, and then you got to set it hard, right? Because
Yeah, they
they've
got a
got a
nice hard
hard mouth.
mouth. Yep.
Yeah, you set it hard, and then there's that little question mark there for a second where you're like, okay, what is that? Is that a Chinook? Is that a chum? Is that
Yep.
something else?
Typically, you can tell within the first 2 to 3 seconds if you got a Chinook or not. Yep.
Yeah. What is that in the two or three? How do you know it's a Chinook?
A lot more aggressive head shakes, and a lot of times they're pulling line off. They're off your reel.
Right, and they're going. And then you've probably seen some of these fish. Have you seen some people just the fish is going and pretty not, then they're not stopping it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I watched a few that you can't do anything about it. You just gotta hang on and hope something doesn't give. But unfortunately, a lot of times something gives on those big ones.
Right. Have you guys had to have you done the boat thing where you jump in the boat and chase it down, or is that something that
Absolutely, you
yeah.
bet. Yep.
Seems like that would be kind of a crazy moment where somebody's got a fish and you're falling down. Does that usually turn out where you're landing the fish, or how's that look?
It's kind of angler driven. I usually park my boat at the bottom of the run so that if a fish does decide to leave, we can walk down with the fish and then get in the boat and chase it
Oh, right.
rather than walking back up to the top of the run while the fish is running down.
Right. Good idea. Yeah, because they're typically not running up. They're going to be heading out downstream.
Yeah, they're typically when they're taking off, they're going back towards the ocean. Yeah, they're going
Right.
path of
That's
least resistance. Yep.
gotcha. That's smart. Yeah. So park down below. That's cool. Well, I mean, basically, you're sitting there now, kind of hanging out, getting ready to tie some flies. What are the flies that for Togiak? You're getting ready for next year. What are the flies that you're using there?
Yeah. A lot of just super simple marabou patterns. Pink is a great color on the Togiak. Blue and chartreuse is good. Black and blue is good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I've learned now the last 3 years, just keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not, getting butt hurt when you have a
Right.
client send one into a tree, which there's plenty of, and in certain spots, there's a lot of sunken wood on the Togiak in spots. But yeah, just simple, weighted and unweighted,
Okay.
and sparsely tied, so they're easy to cast and turn over.
Oh, right. So weighted. So what weight? What would you use for the weight?
I like a medium dumbbell eye,
Yeah.
typically.
So dumbbell is just enough to get down, and then
Yep.
sparse being you're using marabou. What would be like the body on one of those flies? What would you be using?
So I use a lot of UV polar chenille.
Mm-hmm.
So like 2 or 3 wraps of UV polar chenille, and then either 1 or 2 marabou feathers over that with some flash is all you need really.
Okay. Yep. So pretty simple, and like you said, the bulkier the fly, the harder it is to cast. So you want to keep it at
Correct.
the least material as possible,
Yep.
and probably if you can, when would you be going to something? You've got a weighted fly and an unweighted fly. When are you going to? What's the conditions where you would throw on the weighted fly?
Uh, so I'm gonna fish a weighted fly when we're fishing a high bank area where the water is fairly deep close to us. I'm gonna throw an unweighted fly when we're fishing more of that gradually tapering, quintessential swing run, where it's kind of gradually taping, and you want that fly to hover on the inside and not get hung up on the bottom. So
Right.
then I'll typically throw an unweighted when I'm trying to get that more hang down fish on
Yep.
that last third of the swing. But a lot of the pools, like the one we were talking about earlier, that's
Yeah.
a weighted fly.
That's a weighted fly pool. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. How do you work your fly when you're swinging it for, on Togiak? Or is it pretty much, downstream and across? Or are you doing anything while the fly is swinging?
You can pump it. If a lot of guys will pump it for Chinook, I don't. I like to let mine just come across. But yeah, like a
Yeah.
60-degree angle cast, typically,
Mm-hmm.
if we're just talking on average, And I like putting a belly in mine so that that fly is coming across broadside, so they get a nice big profile to that
Oh,
fly.
okay. So put a bit like a downstream mend in it.
Depending on the situation,
Yeah.
yes, but really just casting and a lot of times not mending or doing a pullback mend instead of an upstream mend.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I see.
It seems like when you get that fly to come across broadside, you get a more positive hookup too.
Yeah. And you don't need to cast like straight out, right? There's no reason you'd be you're usually casting down and across at that 60.
Yeah, sometimes we'll cast straight out at a 90 if we're really trying to get down, deep.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like that 60 degree angle seems to be like the sweet spot.
Yeah, the 60 degree. Okay. So yeah, get it out and then you're just kind of working slowly, just like steelhead, right? Methodically through the run, taking a couple steps, working down through these runs, right?
Yep. I kind of tell people, base it how clear the water is. So if you have 4 foot of visibility, step 3 to 4 feet each time.
Mm-hmm.
Typically 1 or 2 steps in between each cast.
Yep, gotcha. What is it like Togiak up there at the lodge? Is that similar to Lake Creek? Do they have a lodge setting out there as well?
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Main lodge with guest cabins on one side and guide cabins on the other. Very similar setup. Yep.
Is that hard to get used to go up to Alaska and be up there sounds like you're up there for a good part of the summer. Is it, what's the hardest thing up there to get used to in Alaska?
For a lot of people, probably being away from family and their significant others,
Yep.
which is that's definitely one of mine. I would say for me, it would be the 24 hours of daylight.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a hard thing to get used to just because you're, what is it about that? Because I mean, we were up there that time and yeah, you wake up at midnight and
Yeah.
it looks like it's early morning, right? It's
Yep.
light.
Yep. It's hard to fall asleep. It feels like it's 8 o'clock at night when really it's 2 in the morning. Yep.
Right, right. And are you typically more of a night owl when you're back in Wisconsin? Or are you kind of
No,
get
not really.
so that makes it even harder. So you're kind of it's
Yep.
weird, yeah, getting up. But yeah, I guess you have the what is the shutout blinds, right? Something like that. Is that kind of
Yeah.
does that help?
Blackout curtains are in almost every room, I think. Yep.
Yeah. What about the bugs? We always talk about the bugs and the bears. I know we didn't see you guys don't see a lot of bears up there. Although there was one bear I think they did have at the upper pool.
Yep.
But are the bugs? Is that something you get used to up there? No problem.
Yeah. A lot of the clients, it takes a while for them to get used to it. But
Yeah.
for being a guide out there, you're out there every day. You get pretty used to them.
Yeah.
But they get bad. They're the worst I've ever seen. That's for sure.
Yeah. We joked about it. I can't remember who I was talking about, but that mosquito hole right up there, which is
Yep.
also kind of a bank, not a high bank, but it's a deep slot. Man,
Yep.
that was some serious mosquitoes up there.
Yep. Mosquito, and then Stevie Morrow has a spot he calls malaria as
Oh,
well.
malaria, right?
Yep.
Well, this has been good. I want to hear just a little bit before we take it out here. I want to give a quick shout out to our Wet Fly Swing Pro kind of group. There, we've got. I was just chatting with Adam, who's up in Alberta. He's a new member of Wet Fly Swing Pro. We love to give a shout out to our members in the group there. We're kind of traveling around looking for trips, and all that stuff. He's talking a lot about still water fishing, right? Getting into a little bit more in still and fly tying. I think that's a big part of it. What's your experience on fly tying? Is that something where it sounds like you're pretty into it. Have you been doing that since day one, or is that something more recent for you?
Yeah. No, I kind of started tying when I started fly fishing. So about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
But I tie all my flies for my own guide service here in the Midwest, and then all my own flies for Alaska as well.
What are your flies on the Midwest? Let's take it to brown trout. What are your typical similar type of marabou flies for that?
Yeah. I throw a lot of Kevin Feenstra patterns here.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like a grapefruit leech or a Halloween leech are probably my go-tos. But yeah, just a simple, reverse marabou with, some polar chenille, marabou and some flash catches fish here too.
That's it. But how far are you from the what are Feenstra's rivers? The Muskegon?
Muskegon. Yep, the
Yeah.
Muskegon. So I'm like directly across Lake Michigan from the Muskegon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
across. Yep.
Yep. So he's over in Michigan and I'm in Wisconsin. Yep.
Yeah, I forget about that. So he's in Michigan. What is that like on Lake Michigan? How what does that take if you're in a boat and you're gonna motor across? How long does that take to get from Milwaukee over to the other side?
Roughly like 4 hours.
Oh wow, 4 hours.
Yep.
And what's your boat there you're running typically? Are you doing lake stuff or are you mostly in tributaries?
Now on my own guide service, I'm all tributaries out of a raft. But when I did work on Lake Michigan, it was out of a 30-foot Baja Cruiser.
Okay, right. That's awesome. Yeah, and what's your raft? What are you using there for your boat on the water?
I got a 14-foot Upriver Boatworks out of Georgia.
Oh, really? Upriver boat. Okay, yeah, I haven't heard of those guys.
Yeah, they're fairly new, pretty good boats,
Uh
pretty
huh.
nice guy to work with as well. So,
Yep. So, are you running like a 12 foot or a 14? What's your length?
it's a 14.
Yep, 14. And you got the frame. Is it a custom frame or is it like NRS?
Yeah, it's a frame that comes with it. Yep.
Okay.
It's I got a seat, one seat in front, one seat in back, and then myself in the middle rowing.
Yeah, so it's your standard kind of fly fishing kind of frame
Correct.
where people can stand up and
You
do all
got
that.
it.
Are you guys doing mostly? Are you doing any fishing out of the boat, or is it mostly getting the spots to swing and all that?
It's kind of water level dependent. In the fall when we have low water, we'll absolutely get out and walk down the runs. In the spring though, when our water's high, we do a lot of fishing from the raft.
Oh, you do, right? When it's high,
Yep.
you're doing. And what is that? Is that kind of nymphing, or what are you doing there?
We do. So I do a lot. Yeah, a lot of chucking indicators in the spring when the water's high, but a lot of swinging as well. And if the client, isn't very wade friendly, I'll just have them stand in the front of the boat, and I'll actually just walk the boat down the run, like
Oh, right.
like you would. But I'll hop out and wade because I'm a little stronger wader, than most clients. So a lot of times I'll walk them down while they're standing in the front of the boat swinging. So
Yep. Yeah, and they've got a standing platform that they're using there.
yep, yep,
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing I think would be cool. When I was up there last, kind of on, more towards Ohio, we were swinging. It was,
yeah.
I got a brown, but it was steelhead fishing, right? And I haven't, but I know that would be cool. What is the brown? How size wise? What do you see in there? What would be a large sea or not sea run, but lake run brown?
So a large one for a lot of people would be over in that 10 pound plus
Yeah, 10 pound.
but we see fish in that 25 pound class range every year.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, with a lot of fish in that 15 to 20 pound range as well. A lot of our fish are Tierra del Fuego sized fish here
Oh, right.
in Lake Michigan. But yeah, they're big fish we have here. Definitely, over 30 inches is a big one. Yep.
Yep, that is a big fish no matter where you are. Is the Milwaukee side a lot different? Have you fished any of the Michigan side? Are there a
Yeah.
lot of similarities? What's the biggest difference? Or is it, because there's browns that are going both sides, right?
Yeah, so the Michigan doesn't stock a lot of browns, but they do still have some.
Okay.
I would say Wisconsin has more browns than Michigan does.
Yeah.
So it's more of a steelhead fishery in Michigan, especially in the fall. And in Wisconsin, it's more of a brown trout fishery with the chance at a steelhead, I would say.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then our rivers here in Wisconsin are a lot smaller. Our drainages are a lot smaller here as far as square mileage. A lot of those rivers in Michigan are tailwaters too, so they have consistent water kind of year round
Yep.
for the most part. A lot of our rivers are kind of precipitation dependent. So when we don't have water coming down in the sky, we don't have water.
Oh, right. Yep, that's right. Wow. So cool. Well, and I mentioned we mentioned our Wet Fly Swing Pro shout out with Adam. I want to. He had a couple of questions actually. Some of his challenges he mentioned were identifying holding water. He's got a few things he noted. What does that look like when you're let's just stay on the brown trout. When you're out
Yeah.
there in your streams, how do you identify holding water for fish? What are the biggest things that you're if you're on a new water?
I'm looking for water where I can't see the bottom typically.
Mm-hmm.
That slower, kind of slower than walking speed pace water,
Yep.
3 to 6 feet deep, typically, sometimes deeper. But yeah, I tell people a lot of times that the water where you can't see the bottom.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even if it's, 2.5, 3 foot of water and there's some chop on top of the water, there could possibly be a fish there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like your typical trout holding pool is kind of what we fish here in Wisconsin. That 4, 5, 6 foot of water, right behind a riffle.
Right behind a riffle. So the riffle dropping into a pool sort of thing.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And that would be similar for the same advice for steelhead. Is there, I mean, there's a lot of overlap, right, between steelhead and browns when you're fishing?
Absolutely, yeah. Our fish sit in the same water here.
Yeah, right. So you could be swimming. When is the best time where you could have a chance at hooking a steelhead? Is the spring or fall better for hooking a steelhead or brown?
For a chance at both, I would say in the fall.
The fall.
Yep. Anytime in November. So our browns are in spawning that time of year, and we get steelhead in as well that come in to eat. They eat the salmon and brown trout eggs that are coming down the
Oh,
river.
right. Yep. And then the spring, you've got the browns, which are well, I guess they're all coming out of the ice, sort of thing. And they're but is the spring not as good to catch? Is it easier to catch brown or a steelhead in the spring?
There's more steelhead in our rivers here in spring,
Okay.
so you're more prone to catch steelhead, I would say, than a brown trout.
Okay. And another thing that Adam was mentioning is, getting accurate with this cast. That's another challenge. I think for a lot of people, right? Getting whether you're dry fly fishing for trout or trying to hit that spot. Is that something? Do you find you're using these switch rods, right? This 11.5 foot
Yep.
with the Skagit. Is that? I mean, you're kind of teaching folks. Is that pretty easy to get accurate? Do you have to be pretty accurate on that using those?
No,
No.
definitely not. For the most part, we're casting past the fish and bringing the fly to them.
Yep.
But the swing, you don't have to be super accurate. And a lot of times on the rivers I'm fishing, if you can cast 40 feet, you're in the game.
Yeah, that's it. So you cast, and then if you make a bad cast, you just like you said, pull it back, straighten it out, and you're fishing.
Yep. Just pull it under tension and you're fishing. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. Well, this has been good. I think we can take it out of here, Bailey, here in just a couple minutes. I was going to get a couple of, take it away with a couple of Togiak tips. So
Yeah.
again, we're out there. I think the Chinook thing is obviously a little bit different in where you're at in Wisconsin. You got these fish that aren't biting as much, but what would be your tips on kings for Togiak? So, where somebody's coming in there, what are you telling them? Day one to have a little bit more success? Is there something that you tell all your clients that come through there?
For the most part, I think a lot of people are overwhelmed when they get there,
Yeah,
especially at the size of the water. But for the most part, you don't have to cast far. I tell a lot of people to, let your cast fish. Even if
right.
you pile up a cast and it's a terrible cast, if your fly's fishing, you have a shot at a fish. I saw it
Yeah.
plenty of times where people would strip their bad cast back in and, not have a shot at a fish. And then the guy behind them would play cleanup, all day long.
Oh, right. Right. Because then same thing with steelhead and really browns, all those species, right? If you make a cast and it's crappy, you could easily hook a fish on that just as easy as any other cast.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of microcurrents and stuff going on, but at the end of the day, you don't know what those fish, right? The fly, they're fish, and
Yep.
they might take a crap cast just as easy.
And those fish there haven't ever seen a fly in their life. They just showed up from the ocean
Right.
seven
That's the other
minutes
thing.
ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're also haven't seen any. That's the other big thing. They have not seen a fly. It's brand new, which is pretty crazy to think about. Which in your area up in Wisconsin, right? These fish have seen. They're coming in from the lake, but some of them they're getting some pressure, so they're probably seeing some lures
Abs-
and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pressure here. Yep.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I guess your program wise, as you go in, like you said, tie a lot of flies, get ready for the spring. And then, I mean, it comes quick, doesn't it? Because you got
Yeah,
your
it does.
springtime. When you get going on fishing there, how quick does June come for you as you're in the middle of winter?
Yep, it comes quick. Yeah, March will be here before you know it, and I'll be guiding for steelhead here.
Yep,
And then I'll kind of do a little bit of smallmouth bass fishing in May. But then, yeah, June comes quick. And then I'm back up there for 4 months. Yep.
it does. What's kind of your, cold weather? You're up there in the cold. Do you have any tips for, we got a lot of anglers that are in some place where they can fish throughout the winter. How do you stay warm up there, Togiak or even the Wisconsin? What's your big tip?
I like wearing wool fingerless gloves
Yep.
to keep my hands warm. I know a lot of people don't like wearing gloves, but that's probably my biggest tip for a lot of people. Even when they're wet, they still keep your hands warm. Uh,
Totally.
and then just wool, wool socks for Alaska and for Wisconsin.
Yeah, wool socks. So do you do like a double wool sock, or how do you? Because you got your waders and it's just one pair of wool socks, or what do you
Yeah,
recommend?
so it depends on how warm the water is.
Yeah. What if it's cold? What if it's super like it's freeze? Like the temps are super low. What would be low in Wisconsin? Put like 39 degrees or something.
Below freezing.
Oh, even right, even below.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so this past weekend, it was a high of 30 most days.
30 degrees.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're fishing, the 20 to 30 degree range a lot of times this time of year. So below freezing here in Wisconsin. Up on the Togiak, a cold day, I would say, is, 40 during our king season. Later in the season, in August and September, it'll get below freezing up there as well. But during our king season, it's 40 to 50 degrees a lot of days.
Yeah. And on the fingers gloves, I agree. I think that's a big thing because it's just, and what are your gloves? What do you use? You have a
I
special
run,
brand?
I think they're Fox River Glove Company.
Oh yeah, Fox River. We got the same one. Yeah, I
Yep.
found those. Can't remember where I first found them. Might have been from REI, but they're just basic, super
Yep.
lightweight, right? And they're
Yep.
just nothing to them, but they're the best because you really don't even feel like you have them on.
Yeah, I love them. Yep.
They're the only gloves. So I've recommended those before. Good. I'm glad you brought up the Fox River, so they're still out there going strong. And
Yep.
cool, man. Well, I think we can leave it there, Bailey. This has been awesome to catch up with you on the trip.
Yeah,
Like I
likewise.
said, I think we're going to be definitely. I'm not. I don't think I'll be up there this year, but I'm hoping to get back up there. And we're gonna. I'd love to get out to your neck of the woods too in Wisconsin. I think that's a place where I've done some driftless fishing, but I haven't done
Yeah.
anything with the anadromous fish. Right. So I think it'd be awesome to catch up with you eventually there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we could line something up with Mr. Jeff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sounds good. All right, Bailey, we'll send everybody out to crazy4chrome.net. That's crazy the number 4 or crazy the number 4 chrome.net if they have
Correct.
questions for you. And then also you're on Instagram. Remind us again where you're at on Instagram.
Yep. So my personal is Bailey.Adamavich. And then _ crazy for chrome is my business.
Yeah, _ crazy for chrome. Perfect. All right, Bailey, thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good, Dave. Thank you.
Before you take off, please check in with Wetfly Swing Pro. We're doing a bunch of good stuff in there. We'd love to hear from you if you're interested in taking this conversation further and connecting to a community of like-minded anglers and doing stuff on the inside, building trips together. Check out Wetfly Swing Pro. You can go to wetflyswing.com/pro anytime and check in there. We'll let you know when the next launch and cohort opens up. Also want to let you know we have a big week coming next week. We're launching into Montana week. So Montana, we are going to be fishing some waters that you probably haven't heard of before. This is exciting next week because we're going into some spring creeks, some cool areas that doesn't get as much press. So I'm excited to share that big event, big giveaway next week and all the trips we have going. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you're enjoying this one. If you get a chance, send me an email. Let me know if you heard this one to the very end. And I hope you're able to check in with Togiak River Lodge as well if you're interested in chasing kings this year. That's what I got for you. Thanks again for stopping in today, this afternoon. And I hope you're having a good day, a good evening, or good morning. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.